Well, by now you've heard the refrain, if you touch my junk, I'm going to have you arrested. That was heard from an angry passenger getting patted down in San Diego because he didn't want to go through the naked machines. Thought we'd get Brian Fitzpatrick in here. I'm waiting for the song to come out, if you touch my junk. I mean, that's bound to be next, isn't it? So
I expect it tomorrow.
This is getting to be quite a heated argument out there. I mean, now, of course, we got Janet Napolitano with an editorial yesterday saying that, look, everything's fine. Everybody needs to calm down. But I was seeing one report. Now, it was from a dubious source, but one guy from one radio station or one syndicated radio show was saying that he had a report from a guy who said that they were actually putting their hands down people's pants. What have you heard about this?
I saw that report as well. I haven't heard anything directly about that, so I'm not sure that that's quite correct. I think that one thing I heard is that they are doing searches in the inside of people's thighs, but that with men they are stopping when they encounter testicular resistance.
So, how far do we allow the TSA to go for our own safety? And I guess the next question would be, if in fact they can see you nude, as we've seen through these some of these scans, wouldn't the next step be that the terrorists are going to start hiding weapons in orifices, and then they'll have to do cavity searches to find them? Yeah,
that's the road we're going down right now. I think we need to have a measure of common sense applied here. The TSA has to find some kind of way to protect us without violating our civil rights and without treating us like cattle. And I find it difficult to believe what I've heard from a couple of TSA people or statements they've made publicly that they have no choice but to do this. This has only been in progress since November 1st. We haven't had this program since before then. And I don't know that this has appreciably improved the security of our airlines after it has been put in place. This needs to be stopped now.
So what do we do? I mean, how far do we go? Is this a touch too far? I guess you think so, huh?
This is a bridge too far. I think it's about 4 or 5 bridges too far. The most important point is to go back and see what should we do here, is to start applying some common sense and to get rid of the political values questions which have forced the TSA down this road in the first place. We are not helping security by spending a huge amount of money on extremely expensive equipment and probably more staff than we need to search people randomly while they're going through the lines. Nobody knows exactly what the TSA standard is for choosing people. But the fact is that you can watch the TSA searching a 3-year-old for possibly concealed bombs. Meanwhile, people who are in the demographic who might actually be carrying bombs are walking right through the lines.
Well, that's been the problem. I mean, ever since, even before 9/11, and we now know that because of Norm Mineta, the transportation secretary at the time under the Bush administration, who said no profiling, we know that Mohammed Atta got on a plane that morning of 9/11, and a ticket agent said, if this didn't look like a terrorist, I don't know what, but I had to mentally slap myself because I knew I can't profile. If we were able to use some common sense and actually criminally profile some of these folks, then we wouldn't have to be going through all this, would we?
Nope, that's right. And when you have a guy who's 23 years old from Yemen who's purchased a ticket with cash and is flying one way, that's a guy who deserves to be searched intrusively by the TSA and put through a see you naked machine.
Right.
But they don't need to be doing that to 70-year-old nuns in habits, which is what Drudge had on his website the other day.
Yeah, I saw that. A guy sent me a photo that he'd taken with his phone. He was traveling a few weeks ago, and there was a gentleman, he probably was at least in his 80s, maybe in his 90s, and they had him standing up. He was and as you could see, the wheelchair behind him, and they were doing a full search on this guy, and the guy's sitting in a wheelchair, and he's 90 years old.
Well, it doesn't look like much of a risk to me.
No.
I can understand a limited amount of random searches, but I would, because if if you have a system where the terrorists know that you're not going to search a certain demographic group, then they'll try to find people within that group.
Right.
There are blonde-haired, blue-eyed radical Muslims in the United States. But so you can't go exclusively by the profiling, but if we did profiling, we'd be a lot more safe. That's what the Israelis do, and they have the safest airline in the world.
Well, and we brought that up before, too. Why don't we go to some sort of system like they do? I mean, they ask all sorts of questions. They look for people who are nervous. They come and ask more questions if they're not satisfied with the questions they've asked. Why can't we do something like that?
It all is a question of which people are selected for this kind of treatment. And there's a strong movement of what we call it political correctness, but in America we don't profile, and I think it's pure foolishness.
So you would get rid of the naked machines, right?
No, I wouldn't get rid of them. I'd save them for the 23-year-old Yemeni.
Okay. So you wouldn't put everybody. So you wouldn't randomly put somebody through it. You would put somebody through who you had good reason to believe they might be carrying a weapon.
Yeah, we need to have that kind of equipment available in case these people are carrying bombs in their underwear, like or bombs in their shoe. We've had that done by 2 different terrorists.
Right.
So the equipment itself is very useful, and it may well save lives. But just choosing people at random out of the line and sticking them into these machines is time-consuming, it's expensive, and usually it's going to be a waste of time.
And it can be dangerous, my understanding, from the radiation. Is that right?
I don't know much about that personally. I can't really say, but I know I've seen enough people express fears about it, especially folks who work for airlines. You'd have to face these sorts of things all the time. We don't need to do that to people. So
we save these X-ray machines essentially for the people who are at that level that, hey, this guy has fit the profile. He's acting nervous. I really got a bad feeling about this guy. Whatever the case may be, let's run him to the X-ray machine. But not just some guy who's going on a trip from San Diego to North Dakota, wherever, and just happens to be randomly chosen out of the line. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, you don't subject someone to this kind of intrusive treatment. It's almost disrespectful treatment. You don't do that to somebody unless you have a good reason to need to check them out. A person who's acting nervously, a person who fits the demographic of people who commit such crimes. I tell you, that's something that we as a society have to start facing, is that we cannot create a non-existent equality and just declare equality that doesn't exist amongst all people. The people are different and they behave differently. If I have probably the most Irish name anybody can think of, and people tell me that I have a map of Ireland on my face. Now, if the IRA was bombing American planes, and it was being done by 50-year-old single guys who live in the D.C. area, then I would expect that I would get pulled over and searched by TSA people, and I'd understand that. We have to be willing to tolerate that kind of thing.
Well, look, and I said the same thing. My brother, who's got red hair, went on his honeymoon in 1981 to London, and he said everywhere he went, he was pulled over, he was asked questions, he fit the profile of an IRA terrorist. So we got to understand that, but that's simple and basic police work, though, isn't it? And we're getting away from that, and we're trying to find another excuse or another way so that we don't have to actually do the police work that's involved in this kind of thing.
Well, I wouldn't call it simple basic police work. I call it basic common sense.
Yeah.
The problem is the poor policemen and the TSA officers are stuck with having to enforce the rules that are being imposed on them from above.
Right.
I'm sure they would rather approach their jobs intelligently as well. But right now, the problem is with the political administration, and it's not just the Obama administration. It started with the Bush people, as you pointed out, with Norman Mineta. We cannot allow this politically correct namby-pambyism to make us less secure. But we take random people and put them through these machines. That means that people who are greater threats are walking right past. And that I don't see how that improves our security at all.
So what do you think is going to happen? I mean, of course, this is coming to a head now. I mean, we've almost got an outright revolt from travelers out there. You think the administration and the Homeland Security folks going to back down?
I think they will if they realize that we're going to start losing airlines, which are already having all sorts of financial difficulties. If they start losing passengers, they're going to be in even greater trouble.
Yeah. All right.
So,
well, Brian Fitzpatrick is with the Washington Examiner. You can read more of his work at WashingtonExaminer.com.
WorldNet WorldNetDaily.com, please.
Ah, well, they told me the Washington Examiner. I'm sorry, WorldNetDaily.com. Okay, yeah, with Joe Farah's outfit.
Absolutely.
Good, WorldNetDaily.com, which is they have been following this type of story for a long time. As a matter of fact, that's where the story we were reading from yesterday. Don't touch my junk. That's become the refrain, though, hasn't it, Brian?
It's going to be the new flag on the Tea Party, or it'll be the new phrase on the Tea Party flag. You'll see a rattlesnake, and instead of "Don't tread on me," it'll be "Don't touch my junk."
Don't touch my junk. All right, Brian, appreciate it very much. Sorry about the mix-up. It is WorldNetDaily.com where you can read Brian's work, and Brian, appreciate your insight, my friend. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
All right.